Members, before you tonight we have a report from the Planning and Zoning Commission, and here to give that report to the chair, Wendy McClure. Wendy dedicates an incredible amount of time to the commission, and we couldn't do what we do without her, so I'll turn that over to her.
Okay, so before you leave, I hit right there. Right there. Okay.
Wendy, could you pull the microphone down just a little?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not as tall as Mike. Is that what you're telling me? Well, I was going to say that Mike dedicates an awful lot of time to our commissions as well, so we really appreciate his support. So this year, we have a few new members of Planning and Zoning that you all have appointed, I imagine, through the mayor. Scott Grope and Brock Cherry joined us this year, and we have a number of members a few members who have been on the commission a long time, some of us who have been on a moderate amount of time, and some newcomers, so it's a sort of a nice balance of time served and experience, et cetera, and new ideas or whatever. So that's our commission. We completed several projects in 2016, thanks to Mike putting us on the track to do them. And some of them were really dealing with words, quite a few of them, trying to make standards more user-friendly and more standardized in terms of the language that's used. So the first project was working with the relevant criteria and standards ordinance to and updating standard, and through that, updating standards for plan unit developments, variances, conditional uses, special uses, rezones, and subdivision plats. And really what we were trying to do is update the relevant criteria and standards to be more clear, concise, and predictable for everybody who's trying to use them. And that, I think we succeeded in that. The planned unit development ordinance, we had a developer who had already had a PUD in place come and talk to us about some of the problems with it and brought it to our attention. And really looking at the process, trying to streamline the process for minor amendments to PUDs to not make it such an onerous process where people had to start right all over again if they wanted to change something and go through council again and everything else. So basically we consolidated the process to now it's one hearing and it goes before the original decision-making body, whether that's P&Z or the council. So that's where we are with that. Sign code ordinance, again, responding to a business owner who came to us wanting to display a type of sign that our code at the time didn't permit. So we looked at it and researched other sign allowances in other jurisdictions and talked to the business owner, came to talk to us a few times, and amended the sign code to allow portable banner signs in addition to the A-frame signage that's already allowed. So that's what that was about. Current projects. Use table ordinance. We're still in these projects. I guess that's why they're current. We're restructuring chapters 1 through 4 in the code with narrative, and really going from a narrative to a table format, which I, as an architect, have seen in other jurisdictions a lot more, and they're good to use. And so that, and also shifting to the definitions, standardizing our definitions of the North American Industry Classification System. Yeah, that's what NIAC is what that is. I have to admit I went through a few planning and zoning meetings hearing NIAC and not knowing what the acronym stood for, so now I know. But anyway, so maybe all you do. At any rate, so we've been working on the use table, and to give you an example of what this is what our code looks like now, and there's a lot of words you have to plow through to kind of figure out what you can do with your property or project and in relation to its zone, et cetera. And this table sort of puts it all out there in one graphic and our table, and it's I personally find it much easier to realize that if you want to have a daycare service, what's allowed in which zone, and et cetera, and sort of what the overview is, or any other land use that you may propose that's that would fall in this chart in the various zones that run across the top. So we're working on that one. We're getting closer. We've experimented with things like even bringing gray in every other line, and it's easier to read. So, so all those things are a work in progress. And then, of course, the bulk and dimensional requirements, like the setbacks, the size of the lot, what minimum lot sizes, and the side yard requirements, et cetera. You know, what's allowed in each zone or what's required in each zone. So you see that. We also have been working on off-street parking standards and an ordinance for that. And we've been working on revisions to it, over the last year. We started out, and Mike is really good at reviewing examples from other cities and bringing them to us. And in this case, it was 10 cities around the state and region. And then we formed a off-street parking standards committee that had a sort of cross-section of the community of stakeholders. 2 commission members served on that, Greg Dickinson and myself, and we also had a building contractor, civil engineer, landscape architect, contractor, land use attorney, horticulturalist, citizen. So it was a good cross-section. Victoria, who's in the audience, also served on that. And we then we met and we met 3 times as a committee and then came back with some good changes to the ordinance, and some of those so now some of the main changes are really trying to shift some of the burden onto staff approval instead of requiring conditional use permits, which are more time intensive, and regarding off-site and joint use parking lots, letting staff maybe make a determination there, and providing incentives for bicycle parking with a reduction in parking requirement, taking out inconsistencies in certain sections and just generally clarifying the language, making it read better, and landscaping requirements are probably one of the bigger areas, trying to define, really get more flexibility into it, but more effectiveness as well, and so and restructuring the area. And then the off-street parking illustrations ordinance will have illustrations going with them, and you can see that you know, a picture's worth 1,000 words on that, I think, showing that the change from right now we have a 3-foot strip that would run between the head-to-head parking, and it's, you know, moving out to having these island sections instead of that. For a lot of reasons are preferable. And we're also updating the comprehensive plan, and we're doing chapter by chapter, and we're on chapter 3 now, right? So yeah, I think we talk about chapter 3 this coming week, and that's what we've been up to. A lot of sort of policies, you know, streamlining, et cetera, just communication material. More than anything. Does anybody have any questions?
One thing, Wendy, first off, you're the chair, which I really appreciate the work that you do on that commission. That was the first commission I served on in the city of Moscow back a number of years ago, and it's been
You went in with your feet on the fire, then. I've been on a few.
Well, yeah, there were some interesting times, there's no doubt about it, and I didn't have a clue about what I was doing, so it took about 2 years for me to figure out what in the world was going on. But there's a bunch of other counselors up here, as well as Jim Bolin and Art Bickey, that were on it, and of course John and Catherine have been liaisons from the council on P&Z, so you know, it's a great commission. So questions for Wendy?
Don't have a question, Bill, but I would like to congratulate and applaud the work you do, and with
Mike leading us.
with
Mike and Bill probably to some extent too, or to a large extent.
He is always there with an answer. If he doesn't have an answer, he finds one.
He does.
And planning and zoning is one hard-working committee, and thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having Mike helping us, because otherwise it would be much harder.
Yeah, I just want to add my kudos as well, and especially consolidating a lot of language into easily accessible tabular form. I wish it was that way when I was on P&Z, hopefully done by somebody before I got there, because it's a heap of work to try to consolidate all of that stuff. And all the other good progress that's going on, I love it to pieces, and Hang in there, keep going at it. It's great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? All right, and
Thank you so much
Yeah, and well, thank you
for your
Okay.
presentation.